what are you going to do? All right? Especially when the job market is really competitive. Today we are going to welcome 4 of our students. They are all graduated, and
we're not students anymore.
All right. Engineers. They're engineers, yeah. And they had like really fascinating experience in the summer training and co-op training. Right? You know, when employers want you to have 10 years of work experience before the age of 22, this is how you look like, or how actually the students look like. And we're thinking of what are we going to do after graduation. Like, friends think that we are celebrating every day. Mother thinks that we are doing our homework. Society thinks we are doing this nutritions and detergents. Yeah, all right. Our colleagues from the other departments think that we are making money. We're thinking that we are just mixing some solutions and that's it. And what I actually do, we are working like any engineers or like any other people in a company. All right. So this is the job market and how we look like, how engineers look like, and this is how fresh graduates look like. There is always a gap between the job market and the graduation, or the education system. Our university tried to like minimize this gap by offering you an opportunity to have a summer training or co-op to discover the job market and what does it look like. Our fellow engineers here have already experienced this, and today they are going to deliver their experience to you one by one. They all work in different majors, in different fields, and they're going to offer you their advices. How did they started to search for the opportunity? How did they find it? How did they utilize it? And some advice that they would have to hear before they get to the summer training, their training or their call. We will start by Engineer Mohammed Mutawar.
Be the second one.
الله يعافيك. أنا عاد أسمع.
ابتداء فوق المرة. So it's the opposite. السلام عليكم. Okay, so my name is Mohammed Mutawar. I'm a process engineer at the Industry of Prosperity. I graduated from KFUPM in 161, so it's been almost a year right now. I did my co-op training in semester 152 at Procter & Gamble. Does anybody here knows what P&G is? Any idea? Beside Hamid and Maz.
Detergent action.
Exactly. So basically, Procter & Gamble is a consumer's good manufacturing, to say. It was established almost 200 years ago, about 200 years ago. Its headquarters is in Cincinnati, Ohio, in the United States. So basically, the company started. There is this guy called William Procter, and the other is Gamble. They started this company as soap manufacturing and candles. And now, today, Procter & Gamble is one of the, if it's not the largest consumer's good company, and with its competitor being Unilever. Procter & Gamble, they have a plant here in the Dammam Second Industrial City. The plant was established in 1978, starting as a Tide manufacturing the infamous Tide dry laundry product. It started production in 1981, and today this plant is considered one of the largest plants of P&G's companies. It serves its product to almost 22 countries in Asia, Europe, and in Africa, North Africa. They have 3 product categories categorized as dry laundry, which is Tide, Ariel, Bonix, and then there comes the dish care and fabric enhancer, which is the Fairy, and the Downy product for the clothes. And then we have the hair care product, which is basically the shampoos, Head and Shoulders, Pantenes, the conditioner, and the oil replacement. So as I said, it's considered now one of the main focuses of P&G's is this plant, as it's big and serves a lot of attention from the headquarters itself. Now, usually when you apply to, because I just want you, I want to take you throughout my journey in applying for this company as an intern. I was actually in an exchange program, and during that I applied for them. Because I was in Cincinnati, which is their headquarters, so I went there and applied in there and took the reasoning test in there, and then when I came in here, I did the interviews and everything. But it's basically done the same in here. There is an online application every semester, I believe, and then you apply online, and then the second step, you will take an online assessment. It will assess your personality, and then there will be the reasoning test. The reasoning test is basically math, some really simple math problems, logic, which is, you have certain shades, you arrange them in a certain way, and you find the relationship, and then you will have some reasoning word testing, which is basically gives you kind of a passage, and then you choose the correct answer. If you pass the reasoning test, you will have 2 interviews. The initial interview and then the final interview. If you pass them, you get the offer. So alhamdulillah, I managed to get the intern, but not the job. So basically after that, you will be in an onboarding program for 2 to 4 weeks, depends. The first couple of weeks you will have lecturing about the corporate culture, the corporate business of the company, and then the system of the companies, the safety, quality measures, and then you will have like a self-study. You will do a lot of training and a lot of qualifications on safety and on quality, so that you get qualified to get into the plant. I was assigned in the dish care and fabric enhancer department, where we make the Fairy product and the Downy product. In terms of size, in terms of unit, and in terms of processes, it was the simplest department that I was assigned. It was basically one mixer and a couple of bumps, and then that's it. That's the process that I have. That is for the Fairy, and then the Downy, it's basically the same. So not much of chemical engineering, honestly. It's very simple. So the type of processes are semi-batch. If you know the semi-batch process, you all take 201, so I'm assuming. So this is basically it. But in terms of volume, production volume, it's the biggest. Even though it's like very simple, but it has the biggest production volume among the plant. So when I get into the department, it was kind of a tough, let's say, period, because when I got in there was no department manager, so I was kind of lost, and the department was into a lot of projects, a lot of restructuring, and so on. So And intern students was like the last thing that we will care about in the business. So I was kind of running after people just to get known something. So there was no specific program for me designed so that I do some kind of studies or anything. So I was just, you know, kind of waiting for something to come and do it. So this is basically some of the jobs that I did. So I worked in data analysis. We received a complaint about ferry product from Jordan, complaining that it was not functioning good and so on. I took part in the investigation, and we did some data analysis from the batches. We analyzed the batch that were produced, and then we gave them the results that this was not our problem. It might be storage problem for you in the site. So this is one of the things that I did. Startups, and I believe in 3 or 4 months after I joined, there was assigned a department manager. But when he was assigned, and he's a chemical engineer, I was really happy. But when he was assigned, there was a new manufacturing unit that is taking place for the Downey. They are phasing out the old one, and they're bringing a new continuous process. It is kind of fun as a chemical engineer, but it's all about mixing, and there is no fancy things in it. I took part in the startup and commissioning of that unit. I did some mass balances for the validation of the flows, the water, how much water that is going in, the pressure drop in each and every fitting, in each and every valve. And we did some non-chemical engineering stuff, some mechanical engineering that is called mechanical yellow lining, that is making sure each equipment is arranged and is installed as per PNIDs or as per engineering drawings and so on and so forth. And then we proceeded into what they call the production qualification, which is you make sure that the product is meeting the specifications after the startup and commissioning. Material utilization, this is kind of fun for you as a chemical engineer. It's all about mass balances. So every day there are a lot of quantities that are, a lot of materials that are coming into the plant, and then you will process them. You will then have your finished products and you will sell them. In between, there are a lot of, let's say, process upsets, process deviation from your set points. If you take in process control, you might know this, but the process is never at a steady state condition. So it's always deviating. So as this deviation occurs, some products are scrapped away, some products are thrown away, some materials as well. So these are losses to the company. So in this part of material utilization, we are trying to figure out what materials were scrapped away and why. So we kind of report this on a daily basis. Process reliability, basically in every process you measure the process reliability, which is how reliable or how you can rely on this process that it will keep running without malfunctioning, without breakdowns. So it's basically a measure. You measure it based on how many times it stops, how many times it breaks down, and then you analyze it, why it happens, and so on. And you report that. Quality is as I mentioned, in the first one, the data analysis, the quality problem that we faced. So basically, it was a co-op program, so we took about 9 months. I took 2 extra months. Even after I finished, like in the first month or so, when the semester started, I didn't close the contract right off. I wanted to go back and forth just to establish some relationships between myself and the company. So I stayed for 1 more month and then said bye-bye. So this is in brief. I hope I didn't take much of time, but this is in brief the co-op program. These are the challenges that I basically faced. Is that when I got into there was no specific program or like someone that I report directly to him, so that he keeps track of me, I keep track of what's going on. So I was kind of lost, and I had to run after people so that I get something to work on. And I was really worried about what am I going to do in the report, because at the end you will have to submit a report and do a presentation if you're a co-op student, especially. Sorry? No, 3 reports actually. 2 progress reports, you submit them, and then 1 final report, and as well as a presentation. So I guess for the first month or the second month, you will submit 1 report, and then after 1.5 months, you will submit another report, and then you will be working on your final report as well as your presentation. The lack of information and data. So they are dealing with basically Procter & Gamble, especially my department, especially the units that I'm working with. They have a lot of materials that are pre-made at another plant. So we don't know the compositions of them, we don't know their properties. There is a safety data sheet, but it's like if you go to a petrochemical company and there is a catalyst, and the catalyst is like a secret, so you're not supposed to know it, because if you know it, you know the company's business. So we're not supposed to know these active materials. So I kind of faced a little bit of a problem in that, because part of the report is that I had to do simulation, and it was really difficult for me doing a simulation. So everything I see and I don't know what's the composition, I assume it's just water, because almost 90% of the materials are water. So just assume it's water is going in and going out, and just do some energy balance and so on. No direct manager, as I said. Even when the direct manager came in for the department, he was like busy taking the turnovers of the department, taking care of the department, and working on the projects that are going on and the initiatives. So I was really, the department was in a transitioning state. They were moving from one point to the other point, and even the plant as a whole. And there were a lot of audits that are coming in to transition the plant into a new level. So I was really like the last one that the company as a whole care about. It was really hard, but alhamdulillah I managed to survive. So out of this, these are my advices. The first thing is ask questions. Whenever you have a chance, just ask questions. Ask anything. Whether the operators, whether the process engineers, ask about the culture, ask about the processes, ask about what they're doing, how they're doing it. Just keep asking questions. This will help you form a good network, a good relationship between you and the employee, and giving you a task, whether we have priority, which is our work. So In that case, be self-initiative. Come to your manager, come to your engineer, provide the help. Try to be of a value to the company. Try to let them know that you're not just here to do your case studies for the university and go, but you're actually willing to provide value to the company. Get involved in the corporate business. Know the company business, what they're doing, what are their strategies, what's their culture, how they are running business. This will help you forming a good picture of the company, and then the company will see you as a good fit if you know their culture and you get in line with it. What I mean by the corporate culture is like the way they interact, the way they network, the way they do their job, how, for example, the communication between the engineer and the manager, is it the formal way through emails, is it through phones, how about building networks in there, how networks are work, how friendships work in there, you know, this kind of a thing. Again, be of value to the company and build your network and make good use of it. Make good use of it. Try to provide them value so that when the time comes, when you ask them for something, they will be more than happy to help you. Basically, I hope I didn't take much of your time. I know I talk a lot, but I hope this was of a help to you. Please, if you have any question, whether now or later, please, I'm happy to.
I have a simple question. You said that you spent for the summer training in one simple process, which is one mixer and 2 pumps. Do you think that 7 months on one process like this is much, or you get benefit from this one simple process? Actually,
at the beginning I thought like, what the hell, I'm a chemical engineer. What am I doing with this mixer? You know, it's just like mixing juices together. But no, the kind of problems that you face is a lot. Sometimes the process is running smooth, like you're preparing a batch, and sometimes the process shuts off. You don't know what the problem is, what's going on. And this is not the only challenge, but the challenge is that so in my department there are 2 sub-departments, the manufacturing and the packing. So we make the materials, we make the product itself, the liquid, and then after we finish it, it goes to the packing department, in which most of the mechanical, electrical or industrial engineers work. So because we are synchronized, we are connected. Whenever we have a problem, they will have a problem. So if we stopped our process, we will be punished because we stopped like thousands of dollars down the road. This is challenging to keep the process up and running. You might face like very simple issues, but they are chronic. They keep happening. So you, as an engineer, you should think of solutions of how to avoid this in the future. Some simple problems might be like overdose. Sometimes you're supposed to dose some material, some ingredients, and then it happens that you get a lot of material that is coming in. Sometimes it's a lot less. So you understand what's going on. This device might need a calibration. Okay, so and this happened, and then after a while the problem comes back, and it needs a calibration again. So you as an engineer, you should think of a systematic solution to avoid these kind of problems. Should I, for example, like make a schedule? Should I replace this instrument as it, you know, keeps stopping the process a lot? Then it should be. So we should replace it. If I should replace it, I should search for another reliable kind of instrument, whether it's a pressure control valve, whether it's a flow meter, name it. So it's a simple process as units, but as instruments, you're going to have a lot of instruments. Especially process control is applied in there. And as a chemical engineer, one more advice to you is that do not stick to chemical engineering itself. Try to learn what others are doing. Even in the industry, I mean, even in my job right now, what I'm doing is not pure chemical engineering. I'm working in flares and emissions, but it's not just pure chemical engineering. You have to know some software, you have to know some mechanical engineering, electrical. You have to integrate this knowledge together. So as a chemical engineer, you are more successful if you know what are your colleagues are doing and understand them well, so you get to solve your problems and their problems. So I hope this answers your question.
Yes. So that means it doesn't depend on the simplicity of the process. It depends how it works and how it affects the other processes.
Exactly. So this is one factor, and it doesn't always have to be like it's not just the number of units that makes it simple or kind of challenging.
Can you talk about the 2 interviews you had?
Okay, so basically, the hiring process is just exactly if you are getting hired, not just as a co-op. So the co-op student and the guy who is applying for the job, they are having the same process. As I said, after you pass the reasoning test, you will be called for 2 interviews. Sometimes the 2 interviews are conducted at the same time, and sometimes you will have the initial interview and then you will go. If you pass it, they will call you back and you will come for the second interview. I had the 2 interviews together, luckily. They are looking, they will send you an email. The good thing about them that they send you an email, they tell you what you want, what the company is looking for in terms of skills, in terms of quality. For example, they're looking into the leadership of you, the problem solving. So you need to prepare, let's say, examples. When you go to the interview, don't talk in a generic way. Don't say, I do this and such and such. Try to prepare a real example. So whenever you talk about a skill, you provide a real example of that skill. Basically, the people who are interviewing you are department managers, because they are in need of the person. So you will face 2 to 3 department managers in each interview. And they will be asking you behavioral questions. They will see your personality. How do you think? They will be asking you technical questions. Now, the technical questions may involve talking about projects that you did, your senior project, some simple, not necessarily chemical engineering, but just some simple concept, physics concept or so on. Mainly they want to see how do you behave. If you don't know an answer, that doesn't mean you are screwed up. How you react to answering back question, and how at the end of the interview, if you've done something wrong, like you did not perform well, you still have a chance to prove to them that you are willing to learn. Yes, I did a mistake in the interviews, I didn't know such and such. But at the end of the interview, you keep asking them questions like, okay, so you asked me about this thing, I don't know it, could you please tell me about that? Show them that you're interested in the position. I hope that answers your question.
Is there any other students went with you in the same area, in the same company, or it's just you?
Well, in my period, I was the only student. But when I finished, there were like 4 or 5 students coming at the same time. So they take more than 1 student.
We're delaying just the questions to the end until all the presenters do
Really?
present. for the other, because some students they don't have questions and they want to listen deeply. Yeah?
Okay. Thank you for listening. Again, sorry for taking so much of your time, guys.
Thank you very much. And now we will have our next fellow, Maruf. He worked in
Halliburton.
Halliburton. Yeah.
Assalamu alaikum everyone. My name is Maruf, and I did my summer training in semester 163 in Halliburton company. I did just 2 months training, so I will not go as long as Muhammad. I will wrap up inshallah quickly. So what I will do is I'll just give you what was my strategy finding the internships, what were the difficulties I faced, and then my experience. I'll share you some nice photos and videos of my field experience. Well, finding an internship, I started it 1 year earlier. Like in 153, I started searching my summer training. How I did, I started making contacts, networks. I prepared my CV. I searched online. I started with applying abroad for research internships. I also applied to my country home, Pakistan. Unfortunately, they were saying, okay, you are studying there in Saudi Arabia, so you find your internship in Saudi Arabia. And I was finding my internship in Saudi Arabia, and they were saying, okay, you're Pakistani, so you better find your internship in Pakistan. That was one difficulty I was facing. However, throughout the process, I learned a lot. How did I apply in Halliburton? Actually, it was from the career fair. They came here for the interview. I applied there. On the first day I got rejected. So what I did was I used my connections to get an interview. I got my first interview during a dinner with this friend Makela. And I learned that in Halliburton, if you want to get in Halliburton, you don't go to HR. You have to contact PDC. He's the person responsible for hiring interns or even fresh engineers. So for Halliburton, you should target PDC. PDC means Performance Development Coordinator. There are different divisions in Halliburton. Drilling, known as Perry Division. The PDC is Udis Pradon. Wireline Division, which I worked, was Trent Makela. He's changed with Hassan Al-Nasif. I also have his contact number and I'm in touch with him. So if someone is interested after my presentation, just let me know. So yeah, you have to contact PDC in order to get into Halliburton. He takes interviews. The interview is not technical. The interview goes like, if you are willing to work in field, you might get through the interview. They will ask you simple questions, but they will be like challenging. They will say, are you willing to work 24 hours in a field, in a sun, outside, in harsh environment? If you are willing to do that, the interview would be a piece of cake. What did I do in Halliburton? I did not work as a chemical engineer. So one thing you should, I would suggest that don't just look for chemical engineering positions in this job market days, because it's very tough. Not every chemical engineer ends up being a chemical engineer. You might become, you might go in management. You might become an electrical engineer or a mechanical engineer. Even chemists, you might work as a chemist in the future. So don't limit yourself and explore. And I explored wireline and I loved it, although it was not my major, but I didn't face any difficulties through my training. Training was really fun. I went through a lot of different operations. And the most fun was explosives, playing with explosives. Literally, it was actually, I was not supposed to tell you, but it was so fun over there. And you see the wires, you see in the movies, red, blue, and everything, cutting which wire, nut. So I was the one being trained how to set explosives, which are used inside the well to make the oil flow. So yeah, that's just a little bit background. You don't have to be an electrical engineer to learn these. Just a little bit background of physics 1 or 2 would do the job. Some of the tools and some of the pictures I will share with you just to show how the environment was there inside. Somehow they believed that I was a trustable person, so they gave me the key for explosive as well. Yeah, that's me. So if you're willing to work in field, you have to be really prepared from top to bottom. And after some time, I saw no, black one was much better, so I started wearing that. How was the work environment? There was no 8-hour shift, or you can say that you work like you work for 5 days and they take 2 days off. No, it was 24 hours 7. Like I was staying inside the on the site. I was working in day as well as night, and I learned a lot during those during my whole summer training about the whole operation. And luckily, if like just Muhammad said, if you don't have if you go to a summer training and if you don't want to work for the whole 2 months, they will not ask you to do anything. You can just sit there and do nothing. Or if you are thirsty, if you really want to do something, you can go there and do a lot. Especially in Halliburton, you can do a lot. They always have shortage of manpower, so they are always looking for people. So if you go to their base, they might ignore you, but if you do really good work, they might give you real assignments in the field. And they might even, if you do, they have a very good, reporting system. So if you are working in I was working in Utelia. So if you are working in Utelia, your report will be sent to your main base in Sehal. So everyone in the company will know, okay, this guy, this is an intern, he's working there, and he's doing a really great job. So even you don't know some people, but they will know your name. Okay, this guy was a new guy, and he's doing a great job. So they have a very good reporting system. If you want to go to Halliburton, one thing, make sure that you are aiming for a job. Do everything you can once you reach there. Certainly, they notice people who are hardworking, and if you are really in it, you might end up getting a job offer over there. So yeah, traveling at night, at morning, there was a lot of travel over there. Day operations, again, they were strict, working with oil, working with gases. You just have to take care of safety, but it's not really a big threat. If you just wear your safety helmets and everything, there's no harm in it. If you follow the safety procedures, there is no harm. But there are a lot of safety hazards you have to take care. They will give you safety courses in the beginning. They will train you. You don't have to be worried about anything in going to the field. Some people think that it's hard, it is dangerous to go in field, but believe me, if you are following the safety procedures, there is nothing that can harm you. Here's some footages working at high temperature with oil, day operations. That's the well over there. So wireline operation, what does it do? It's usually like wireline, you can consider it's an electrical engineering thing, right? So you send your tools. This is a tool you send inside the well, and you take data readings, or you do some like explosives. You explode the well inside. So some interesting stuff you do with it. At night, it's better if you get night operations. You can learn a lot, because in morning everyone is heat up and no one is willing to teach you. So at night people can teach you easily. So prefer the night shift if you get guys. This will be your home if you get into wireline division for your 2 months. You will live in this and you will eat and everything. So this is inside the truck. That's how you will sleep for the 2 months, morning or night. Weather might sometimes it be, especially in summer, it gets really rough. But the end experience, it's lovely. You will enjoy it. If you're a challenge-loving guy, you will love it. Just one again snap from the late night operation. People from all around the world, Canada, Indonesia, Europe, and also Mexico, Brazil. From all over the place, you will find people over there. You will make friends also. So it's a really good international environment, diverse environment. That's how you will look. Your clothes and gloves and everything. You will take. One good thing about the summer training, although it's a very tough thing, but you have very good free quality food, and you will enjoy the food at least. And the second thing is, if you do perform very good, you will get the food also. It's there, it's coming. You will also get Yeah, there's a lot of food and a lot of varieties. This is beef. Yeah, I enjoy. I didn't lose weight actually. People were saying you will lose weight if you go to field, but after this food, come on, really. So yeah, it was really fun being there. At the end, alhamdulillah, I ended up with a job offer over there. However, there was one difficulty, there was some policy in the company. Just because I was non-Saudi, I was not in there. But if you guys do your best, you will also get up and get the job offers. Anything, if you want to contact me later, in terms of contacts, anything, you can take my email address. Any questions? Oh, okay, all right, thank you. Thank you.
To the next fellow engineer, تركيش
انا راح عندكم ترى. طيب للاسف ما حضرت برزنتيشن لانه كنت مره مشغول الفتره الماضيه اني قاعد العب سوني. شيء. بدايه عبد الحميد شلبي معكم. انا تخرجت السمستر اللي راح. I did my summer training in 163 with Muiz in the same company actually, and Energy Services. But fortunately, I was assigned in the Research and Development Center in Tejnub. So I used to have an office while Muiz is suffering in the desert. And plus I had girls with me in the office, so yeah, that's something to do and you don't see every day. At the beginning, my advice to you, or how I started searching about the summer training, as Muiz said, we went together to the career day and we applied together. Of course, I got rejected also in the first interview, and then I used my connections to get inside the company because I really wanted to do a training in the oil and gas field. Once I got in the company, I was assigned to the water treatment division. It's a subdivision actually in the company, and fortunately, my mentor had his annual vacation and he left, and I stayed there for 2 weeks doing nothing but safety training and the online courses in the company, and I really enjoyed that I had nothing to do. And then I was assigned to another mentor, he was from Colombia, and you know those guys, they work as hard as they can. He was the only guy working in cement department and research. So this guy on the first day, he came and he told me, what do you know about cementing? I was shocked, nothing, I know nothing. What is cementing? What is cementing has to do in the oil and field. And he said it's okay. When I joined this job, I had nothing to do with it. He's a mechanical engineer and I'm a chemical engineer. I would be working as a civil engineer. So it has nothing to do with chemical engineering at all. So he took me to the lab where he gave me a tour on all the equipments they had in the company. And he explained like really, really fast, okay, this machine will measure this thing. This machine will do this test. This is the mixer. This is the storage where all the chemicals and the cement are there. And when I say cementing, what comes in mind that you have cement like what we use in buildings. Exactly that it is. We use Saudi Class G cement, the one that they use in buildings and stuff like that. So it's nothing different. Why they use cementing in the oil and gas field? After they do the drilling job, they install something called casing inside the well. And to maintain that casing in its place, they use cement to also isolate the casing from the formation layer, which is the earth. And also it makes their life easier when they install other equipment, just like wireline and explosive inside the well. So he gave me a tour in the lab, and he gave me the assignments, and he gave me what we call the training plan. So my training plan consisted of only 2 projects, and I was upset. Like everyone I know is working in PMG and working in SABIC. They are having a lot of projects. They are working in a lot of stuff that makes sense for a chemical engineer. And I had 2 projects in cementing engineer, and I had no idea what to do with it. So I told him, okay, I want more, because I was thirsty like those guys, and I wanted to do extra in the oil and gas here. And he said, okay, just if you finished 1, you will be lucky. And I thought that he was kidding, but he was right. I just did 1 project with him. I was working in a project called self-healing cement. It's something new in the market. They just released it like 2 months ago. This self-healing cement have some properties that it can heal itself after cracking if something happens. Sometimes when those guys, when they install the explosive inside the well, they do fractures and deformation, and the cement get cracked and the casing will be not stable. So we invented something that called self-healing cement, which just small drops of water will make the cement heal itself back. So as a chemical engineer, I utilized my knowledge in chemistry because I did a lot of mixing. I mixed more than 100 kilograms of cement inside the lab. In a day, I would do maybe 50K or 70K in a day mixing. My job was to get, sometimes, my main job was to do the research with this guy on the self-healing cement. So it was trial and error. The client, which is Aramco, they gave us some specification of this cement that they want to release in the market, and they will have some specifications. So I used to go to the lab, do the mixing, and do all the testing. Sometimes I used to get from 14 tests, I get 13 of them. I fulfilled the requirement for the client, but one test will fail, so I have to restart my work all over again. And it took time, a lot of time. So I used to do 3 or 4 tests a day, and you can measure the period. And I just had 2 months. But alhamdulillah, I had a colleague from the petroleum department. He was working with me on with the same mentor, and we managed to finish this project. And it was a good experience, honestly, working in something new and not related to chemical engineering. Especially as those guys said, you get to know what are we capable of. Chemical engineers, they don't do mass balance and energy balance, or electrical engineering, they do anything. They have the sense or the basics for the fundamentals for any kind of engineering. So go ahead and just see what do you want to do and what do you really want to work on, and work through it. And there is nothing holding you back from getting a job that you really want, whether it's chemical or not chemical. So my advice to you, as the guy said there, I think they summarized a lot of amazing stuff like connections. That's the best thing that you should do when you are in a company, especially if you want to work in this company after you finish the training or the co-op program. You need to make good connections. You need to introduce yourself to everyone. Go and talk to this guy and this guy and this guy. Ask for a job, just like Muhammad said. Don't just stick to what they give you. So on my free time, when I used to have nothing to do, or when I finished my trials for the self-healing project, I used to go to the operation lab and ask them to give me some of their work. So they used to give me those sheets, requests from the field, actual requests from the rigs. And I used to prepare their samples and do the test for the engineers there. And as I said, the company had really good reporting system. And we had the access to that system, so we could contact directly people in the field. So yeah, make good connection, ask for more work. And one thing, when you apply for any job, make sure that your resume is good. You make sure that you have a really good CV. That's really important thing. Because before even they will interview you, they will check your resume. If it's attractive, they will give you a call. If it's not attractive, they will not give you a call. So make sure that you have a good CV, and don't lie through when you do the interview. Don't lie at all. Just be honest. If you don't know anything, just say I don't know. When I did my interviews in Halliburton and other companies, they used to ask me technical questions, like what is QMS, what is when I did the interview in Halliburton, they were asking me what is the fracturing fluids and stuff. I had no idea what are these. So just don't lie. Say I don't know. Be honest, and you need to mention that you are a quick learner. So even if you don't know, you will learn. If they provide you the material, you will learn. And in those companies, as Muhammad said, they are not free to teach you each and every single thing. So my mentor, he took me just one day in the lab, and the second day, he was expecting me to do all those tests without anything. So I went to him and I told him, okay, you should come with me and show me how to operate this machine. He said no. He gave me the manual for the company and he said, okay, go and read, learn how to operate it. And I used to do mistakes. It's not wrong to do mistakes. You will do a lot of mistakes. But this is the way you do it. This is the way you learn. They will not have free time for you to teach you anything else. And best of luck, inshallah, I hope you get the opportunities that you really wish for. And that's it. If you have any questions, we will answer later. And my contact information is with Barbani, so feel free to contact me anytime. Thank you.
He's the one was behind this whole meeting. He suggested the idea that junior students want to have an experience, want to like know what's going on in the summer training opportunity, and they have this experience and they wanted to offer it. He's one and only عبدالرحمن.
I did my summer training at the Danish company, Topso. It's located in Bahrain. They have a branch in Bahrain here. It was founded the second day after the Second World War by the Danish scientist himself, Topso. Because of an agriculture crisis, they had an agriculture crisis, so they needed some ammonia. Ammonia is a fertilizer, basically. تعرفون ammonia? Because for the rice, yeah. So they needed that, and he came up with an ammonia converter. And that's how the company started, basically. They started with an ammonia converter, then they added CO2 absorber, they added methanator, and then they said, okay, we need to complete the whole loop of ammonia production. So they started with they brought up the hydrogenation unit, the desulfurization unit, the reformer, the shift reaction. So they built a whole ammonia plant, and that was their specifications. That's where they're proficient. Yeah. So they excelled at that, and they really learned the basics of catalysis. And throughout the years, they progressed into this field of ammonia, and they expanded their fields into different areas like hydrogen production, like hydrocracking, like hydrotreating, and they really excelled at that. So nowadays, they are into the catalysis business, and they are a very unique and well-known company in the catalysis business. They not only do catalysis.
Can you please just tell them what is catalyst?
Catalyst is an inducer. It enhances the chemical reaction. دي والله شباب chemical 1 2 chemistry 1 2 الاكتيفيشن energy الباند gap. الcatalyst, it lowers this band gap in such a way that the reaction will occur at a lower activation energy and less severe conditions, basically temperature, pressure. يعني إذا كان مثلا the reaction occurs at a very high temperature or pressure, it will occur at a lower. So it is more feasible, you will save more money. That's the basic idea. And one advice, a quick advice, take the catalysis course.
Yes.
Elective course, take it. No matter who's the instructor, take the catalysis course. It is a very core discipline in the chemical engineering department. It is a very, very interesting and very core industry that as a chemical engineer, you need to know something about it at least. You need to know something about it. So this company, the Topso company, thank you Abdulhamid for the question.
I'm not sure if you know what this catalyst is, but it's really something important in chemical engineering.
Yes,
you should know what it
yes,
is, what
indeed,
does it do.
Yeah. So they have nowadays, they have many branches. They have the headquarters in Denmark, as I mentioned, they are a Danish company. So they not only produce catalysts, they manufacture equipment, they license technology, and they design whole plants. So this gives them a very value proposition in the marketing industry. They call it value proposition. قيمة إضافية لك كشركة. Value proposition is something that you have, other competitors don't have. It's a value proposition, and they are very well known all around the world. We as chemical engineers, we don't know about them. But if you go to SABIC, you go to Aramco, in the Middle East, around the globe, they are very well known because they have the best catalyst. And I'm not exaggerating. They have the best catalyst in terms of activity and in terms of lifespan. So they are really good at their job. Yeah. So what we did basically, we were like 5 trainees. First of all, I heard about the opportunity through an advertisement sent by the KPPM email. They sent it, I did my summer training at 163 with Mu'azz and Abdulhamid. I received the email. I was a bit hesitant in regards it was in Bahrain. You need to consider the commuting to the work every day or living there. It's a bit of an expense, and you need to consider it. But once I weighed in the advantages and disadvantages, I was really interested in the catalysis industry. So the economic expenses were not of a challenge. Yani, for a month you will spend around 1,000 for only the causeway. So you need to keep that in mind. Yes.
After taxes increased.
Oh. 1,010
Plus tax.
10. So yeah, you need to really consider it, huh? So yeah, I heard about the opportunity. I applied through a very simple online application. You get your name, GPA, CV, and that's it. They contacted me back about the interview. The interview was in Bahrain, and the Al-Mu'ayya Tower in the Sea District. So I went there, I did my interview with a very lovely guy. His name is Wallah, very respectful guy. They know him, they've seen him, yeah, he's a very lovely guy. So yeah, I had the interview. It was a very basic interview, like what are your aims, what do you aim after this internship? What are your goals, like what do you expect to gain out of this internship, basically? You know, we are a catalysis company. What are you aiming for as an intern? So you had to answer this. He has very basic questions. There's nothing very hard about the interview. You just need to be confident. You need to be, you are a human after all. As everybody said, it's not wrong to not know anything. If you don't know something, say I don't know it. Nobody will expect you to know everything, okay? Just keep that in mind. If you don't know something, just say, I don't know. There's nothing wrong with that, okay? After doing the interview, I received the acceptance for the internship. They assigned a supervisor for us. We were 5. It was the first time they invited students from KPPM. They usually take trainees from the University of Bahrain. So this time, the last summer 163, they said, why not take it from KPPM? So University of Bahrain was considered as the best in Bahrain. So they said, why not the best in Saudi? Let's try. So they did the mashup. Like they took 4 from KPPM and 1 from University of Bahrain. And they say, we were the best year so far. So yeah, we need to be proud of this. The internship was basically a learning-based internship. We had 2 lectures, 2 learning sessions, 2 lecturing sessions, 1 in the morning, 1 in the afternoon. And it was a learning-based internship. Nothing so exciting about it, huh? It is a learning-based internship, yet it was so informative. Because the company, as I said, they have 2 main branches. They work in CBU and RBU. CBU is Chemical Business Unit, RBU is Refinery Business Unit. So they have full engineers and full capabilities in this field, chemicals and petrochemicals field, and they have full engineers and capabilities in the refinery field. So you get to ask anybody anything, and he will answer you. Well, this guy is working in the sulfur management industry. Go and ask him. I want you to tell us something about the sulfur management industry. He will do it. That's the lovely thing about it. Because Hada Topso, the founder of the company, he had the charisma, a very unique belief. If the door of my office is open, you get in without any appointment. There is a very family and lovely relationship in the company. So if any door is open, you get to get inside and ask and chat, and it is a very, very unique environment.
You had girls?
It is recorded at the honey. No, we did not have girls. No, we did not have girls. Only 2 ladies.
Are you sure?
Yes, yes. Only 2 ladies, yeah. So yeah, I lost the track. So we had 2 lecturing sessions. We had the CBU, we had the RBU. We did not have a very strict and rigid schedule, so it was very scattered. Like this guy is free this time, he will give us a lecture about hydrocracking, for example. This guy is free, he will give us a lecture about an ammonia production plant. So yeah, it was very, very interesting. We went through it all. Like we started with the ammonia plant, and we went through each and every unit. with its catalyst and the deactivation and the performance evaluation, then the other unit and the operating conditions, the catalyst, everything. So we went through it all. Like we took an ammonia plant because it's their profession. So we went through the whole ammonia plant. We took everything about it. Then we went to the hydrogen plant. It's almost similar to the ammonia plant. We only had reformer or MTS, medium temperature shift, and the pressure swing adsorption. So it is almost similar. The interesting part came when we went to the RBU, the refinery business unit. There we had the distillation column, the hydrocracking, the hydrotreating units, and yeah, that basically was it. We had an interesting thing. They spend 10% of their annual revenue on R&D. And that's a very big number, Shabab. 10% of the whole net profit for R&D is a big number. So they really cared about R&D, and they have a lot of patents, and they are using them, and they are gaining money out of them. And we've seen it, that they are very unique, they are very specific. Their technology enables them to have the best outcome, the best results, the best technology. And that's a very interesting thing. So they had technologies in the catalyst itself, like brim or high brim or the grading. And they had technologies for whole technologies, like whole processes, like the wet sulfuric acid. In the industry, you will see if you go to a plant where there are petrochemical industrial plant, you will see mountains, yellow mountains. They are basically sulfur. And this sulfur, like, it's very hard to find the customer for this sulfur. It's elemental sulfur, like S كبريت كده الحالة. But إيش تسوي؟ ما حدا إلى الآن they have difficulties utilizing this sulfur. How the Topso did, they utilized the sulfur in such a way that the end product is sulfuric acid, H2SO4, which we use, and you see it a lot in the chemistry course. And it has a lot of industrial applications in the industry. So to conclude with my experience, it was a very fruitful and enjoyable experience. We had a lot to learn, and we've seen what chemical engineers can do. Basically, most of the engineers there were sales engineers. Just imagine, chemical engineer working as a sales engineer, sales manager, technology manager, and he is a chemical engineer. So this widens the spectrum of job opportunities you look for. We had like 18 different tasks throughout the span of the internship, like 2 months internship. We had 18 tasks varying from reports, research, simulation, hand calculation, mass balances, presentations, business plans. So it was very enjoyable, yeah. That's the end of my experience for the Hadda Topso. I would like to conclude with let's forget about Hadda Topso now. Alas, we are done. We are done with Hadda Topso. Let's define what is a chemical engineer. Anybody can join us? Define a chemical engineer. Who is a chemical engineer?
That's all
Again?
the one that solves an environment that we face.
Why not?
The guy that was responsible for chemical process and solving the problems chemically.
Yes, why not? Any other?
Master of all engineers.
Master of all
Yes, we are master of all engineers. Chemical engineers
Yes.
are the leaders.
Yes, in the industry they call us universal engineers. In the industry they call us universal engineers. Because, let me just mention the industries we can work in as chemical engineers. We can work in pharmaceuticals, water treatment, catalysis, refining, petrochemicals,
Food,
research, food, detergents, consultancy, research, construction, bioengineering, name it, you name it, come on.
Yeah.
Back. Yes.
We have
Yes, the professor, chemical engineer, who has a master's in this, and she's a chemical engineer working in the back.
We have chemical engineers working in media. We have
Yes.
social media, not social media, even the electronic media.
Yes. I know a chemical engineer who's working as a construction manager. It's a very basic, pure civil engineering job.
Yes.
Yet he's working there. So you get the sense that as a chemical engineer, you are a human after all.
Yeah.
You are a human with all the grace and might of humanity, with all the arrogance and ignorance of humanity, with all the optimism and success of humanity. You are a human after all. You are a human, then a chemical engineer. So nobody expects you to be perfect. You are a quick learner. You have the basic knowledge to operate and process and perform under any condition, any circumstances, especially as a KPU famous. You've been through it all, basically.
Yeah.
So yeah. So you have the basic, you've been through thermodynamics, mass transfer, heat transfer. What else? Catalysis,
What's with math?
fluid mechanics, math, chemistry, organic chemistry. Like you've seen it all. Economic assessment. You've been through it all. Like you have a glimpse of each and every aspect, each and every industry you need to have a background about. So you are ready. And if you add those spices of electives like catalysis, polymer technology, desalination, and then you add the seasoning from other departments like electrical, the EE course or the CE course or the geology courses, the other technical electives. You have a very fully developed and well-rounded chemical engineer who's ready for the job market. So you need to keep that in mind. You are ready. And don't downgrade yourself that, okay, I'm only a process engineer, that's it. Or any like very chemical engineer position. Don't aim for that. Like widen the spectrum. Like whatever you want to be, you can be. Especially as a chemical engineer, like, you have the power in your hand to do whatever you want. If you are interested in any subject like biology, civil engineering, electrical engineering, they did electrical engineering, oil industry, they did oil industry. Halliburton is an oil service company, yet chemical engineers work there. So
I will tell you here that for my position, summer training, there were 4 engineers, all from KPUPM. 3 were electrical and 1 was chemical engineering, me. And I was even non-solid, still I got the job offer, those 3 didn't. Even being a chemical engineer in an electrical field. So don't underestimate chemical engineering.
So yes. So let's mention some title job positions. Job positions that the chemical engineer can work in.
No, the sales engineer, maybe people like misunderstand what a sales engineer is. It's not like a guy who's just trying to sell his product to the people. Being a sales engineer, you have to understand all the technical knowledge of your product. For example, let's say you are in a powder and topsoil and you work as a sales engineer. You have to know your catalyst. You have to understand what's your client need. You may do a case study. So you will do chemical engineering, but in the name of sales engineer. You are called sales engineer because at the end you want to sell this product, and the process doesn't stop in here. You will provide like services after selling this product. Like you will be like some kind of a technical support. So again, you will be doing engineering job, and even if you start your career as a process engineer, you might end up doing something totally different. You might end up in an HR. You might end up in a management position. So you might start being a process engineer for some while, and then you will get promotions, then you'll be a supervisor, you'll be a manager, then you'll be a CEO. So actually, chemical engineering doesn't mean you stick to process engineering for your entire life. You will have I'm sure you will have different positions down the road when you get employed. You can start as a process engineer or something else. You will be shifting positions. So yeah.
So, thank you.
Other positions we as chemical engineers can work in, like for example process engineers, operation or operating engineers, production engineers, safety engineers, environmental engineers, like quality assurance, quality control, control engineers, catalyst engineers. What else? What else? Researcher, consultant, working in EBC, engineering, procurement, and construction. So the spectrum is very wide. Like, it is very wide. And it is very important to know the job titles, because once you are hunting for a job, you need to know the title you are aiming for. Okay, sure? You need to know the title, because if you don't know, nobody will hire a chemical engineer, quality assurance or safety or whatever. They will not hire a chemical engineer as crude as that. Like, no. You need to aim for a job title and look for it from now. You are on the verge of graduating. I know you have like 1 year, sir? تقريبا 1 year, 1 year and a half, 2 years. Aim for a job. Explore the job market from now. Understand the different responsibilities for each job title and see what fits you. Okay? You know your capabilities, you know your weaknesses, you know your strengths. So work on that from now. Construct a good CV, do your connections, attend meetings, do your contacts. Like, work on it from now. Just keep that in mind, because otherwise you will be in big trouble. Believe me, Shabab. So start from now, do the initiative. As Muhammad said, be self-initiative and start working from now. And let's conclude with the aim of such meetings, because inshallah 1 year from now you will be done with your summer trainings and you will be in my position lecturing other students what a summer training opportunity is, what an internship is, what the co-op training is. So just keep that in mind and do your best, Shabab. Do your best, Shabab. Thank you all for listening. I hope you enjoyed this meeting, and we will be glad to answer your questions, all of us. Thank you.